Good artist, copy. Great artist, steal. What are you? What is up, everybody? Chris here with another episode of How to Copy and Steal. Today, I am joined by a dope guest. She is a registered dietitian. She is a nutritionist. She serves the SoCal area. But not only that, she is a badass mom entrepreneur, or what I like to say, mompreneur. She's been killing it in SoCal as of late. She's been doing a whole bunch of clips around gut health. And as of late, she's been getting pretty damn funny with these clips that she's been making in terms of doing these back and forth, those little skits and things like that. But I am joined by Naria Marie. How you doing, Nadia?
Hi, good. How are you?
Is Nadia Le Marie? Is that the way that you like it, or like how do we do that? Like
Close.
close?
It's Naria Le Mire.
Oh wow, Nadia Le Maire. Is that French?
Yeah, it's for my husband.
Okay. Awesome. Well, yeah, I'm so glad that you could join me for this episode. There's so much I want to talk about in regards to like gut health and things of that such. But first, the whole idea of how to copy and steal is to kind of, again, let people know that like there's no such thing as original ideas. Like we stand on the shoulders of giants, and I like to hear people's stories and where they started and end up like see how they got to where they got. Like for me, I was a UX designer, and then somehow I ended up in video production, and I felt like there was a lot of life experiences and things that I did in the past that kind of added up to me building up the skill set to be a good live stream producer. So like I like to get into the story of like where did you start? Like was, being a registered dietitian, was being a nutritionist always the thing that Nadia was doing? Was it around gut health, or did you start somewhere else? So, like, what did you go to school for? I mean, I see that you got the degrees behind you, but yeah, I'm interested. Like, where did you start?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And it's just like an evolvement throughout the years. Did I always want to be a dietitian? Honestly, I didn't even know dietitians were a thing until I think it was like my 18-year-old doctor appointment where the doctor sent a dietitian. I was like, what are you? And that's where I learned that dietitians existed. And at first, I went to school to be a dietitian just to do like healthy eating, nothing crazy. But as I started to practice in different clinics, I started to realize that there are deeper issues people are dealing with. And a lot of those issues just were not being addressed during their appointments. And I thought, okay, what if as a dietitian, I could create something that could really help people get to the root problem?
Hmm.
And that's kind of what led me into I need to start my own business. What is it going to be in? I don't know, but we'll take it as we go. And just really talking to, thousands of people dealing with different issues, I realized a lot of people digestive issues aren't getting settled. Why?
Hmm.
And that's what led me to what I do today.
Okay, so like, walk me back there. Like, how was that like going from school? Like, I'm assuming you went to school for it, right? How was
Yeah.
that like transition going from school to working for a bigger organization? Like, are we talking like private practices where people hire out other dietitians to work for them? Is this a doctor? Like, what are we talking here?
When after graduating from school, I started to work at a clinic. It's actually like where the position specifically I'm referring to is a daycare center.
Okay.
Have you heard of PACE, where older individuals go, and it's just a daycare center
It
where they
sounds
get fed.
familiar, but
There's
no, I wouldn't say like I know Pace University, but that's about it. um,
Well, in this specific clinic, and I was working before there with at WIC. So I was first working at WIC with different moms, and I actually love working with moms. But as a new dietitian, I felt like, okay, I want to grow. Like I want to start to help people in different ways. And that led me to this clinic. Now, what I learned in school was the typical my plate,
mhm,
right? So eat your fruits, your veggies, your dairy, and so forth. And when I started to practice as a dietitian, that's what I taught because that's what I learned. However, in this particular clinic, I noticed that teaching this wasn't resolving people's issues, specifically with diabetes.
Hmm.
And I thought this is interesting because I literally spent years learning about what to teach people, how to eat, and their blood sugars are insane. They're increasing their medications. Now they have kidney problems. Now they're gaining weight. Now they have fatty liver. What if that's not the solution?
Hmm.
And that's what kind of took me into what if what I learned isn't the full story? Maybe it does help a lot of individuals, sure. But what if there's more we can do for individuals dealing with these issues?
Yeah.
And after working there for a while, I realized that the mind
What's a
plate,
wow? How long were you there for?
I was there for maybe 2 years. I can't remember. I think it was maybe a year and a half,
At any
maybe
point,
1 year and a half or
did
two.
you try to convey this with your higher ups, or was this always something that was internal?
It's funny you bring that up. So it was internal at first. And then I had a meeting with the dietitians and I said, hey guys, what if we were to change the portions of the participants here and see how their blood sugars react? Because honestly, they're going to get better.
Hmm.
So I actually brought it to the supervisor, registered dietitian, and she said, yeah, Nari, we're not going to do that. That's not.
This is my business. I'm the blueprint. I get you.
And I thought, what do you mean? What is our purpose as registered dietitians here if we're literally not helping them eat healthier? So, anyhow, I guess you could say, a little bit of a rebel. And I spoke to the doctors and I talked to the doctors and I said, hey, I have this idea.
Hmm.
What if we were to just change the portions of the individuals and basically just nice and simple, nothing crazy? All we're doing is being more mindful of the protein and reducing the starch. Let's see how their blood sugars react. Because I'm getting a lot of families that are literally crying to me, why aren't we controlling their blood sugars? It's
Hmm.
part of our responsibility. So the doctors actually basically brought it up in a big meeting, and the supervisor dietitian was just forced to
Ooh,
say okay to me.
they put you on the hot seat real quick. Someone here has a problem with no names, and like you're the only one that's talked about it, just like creeping in the corner. Like, I guess.
Exactly. That's essentially what happened. So she brings us up. She's like, okay, fine. You want to do this. This is going to be on you. You have to figure out the time and so forth. So we sat down, reviewed the menu, we made the portion changes and so forth. And I remember specifically, maybe it was like 2 weeks after, 3 weeks after, we're having like our morning huddle. And the LVN, so the nurses, they say, I don't know what's changed in the last few weeks, but the blood sugars are increasing a lot.
Yeah.
And I thought, wait, hold on, let's back up to wait, what? Was can you say that again?
Yeah.
Because we're actually doing our job now, right? Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. So that's what led to a big change there. And I thought it's interesting to me because I think like as a patient, like even not considering being a dietitian, we really put our trust in the medical providers, right? In your doctor and your dietitian and your nurses. But after experiencing this and hearing a dietitian say, "Don't worry about their diet," I thought, can we really trust people? I don't know. I
What's
maybe
your
not so much.
feeling on like what was going on there? Was it just like the idea of changing status quo and like these people were locked into their routines of like this is what work is? Or did you feel like it was like you stepping on toes or like there's like some hidden agenda or something? Because you know what I mean? Like there's so much nowadays, especially like as we progress and we see like how much toxic foods have been put on our plates, specifically as Americans. Like, yeah, I mean, there are things that other countries don't let slide. You get me? You look at a bag of Lay's for us versus a bag of Lay's for Europe, and like, wait, like, why is their ingredients list just like potatoes and ours is just like all these other things? So what was your feeling as to like why was there so much pushback? Was it any of those?
Well, I think a lot of it was don't step outside of the norm. Don't question things. Just do as you're said. Like no one's asking you to go above and beyond.
Hmm.
And my whole goal of spending all those years going to school, putting my family through it all was to actually help people. And I personally don't feel like putting things in a box and accepting things is always the answer.
Yeah.
I think that's what was the most part. Just basically stay in your lane, don't change anything. That's not what we're here for. And I just disagreed.
Hmm. I get you. I get you. So like
Yeah.
what was that like start for you? Like when you started to feel like you wanted to go on your own, was it just like a cold turkey thing or like peace, I'm out, here's my 2 weeks? Or was there like a build up to it where you like, reaching out to mentors and coaches, or like, people around you, and building up to it where you felt like you could fly? Or did you just go cold turkey?
Well, I've always wanted to own my own business. I just had no idea what that meant. No one in my family's owned a business. No one's ever had this type of mindset. But
Same
I
here.
knew I wanted to eventually. And I think that one of the things that pushed me to do it was seeing firsthand how our medical system was just not it. It's really not helping people.
Hmm.
And I think I needed to see that to really get an idea of what I wanted to do in my private practice. Now, when I veered into having a private practice, I just slowly went into it. And so I started to get clients here and there, and I figured, okay, I'm just going to learn as I go. I'm going to make a billion mistakes, which I did, and I'm
Hmm.
still going to be making mistakes.
Yeah.
And eventually, I hired my first business coach, and that just really was what helped me get to where I'm at
Yeah.
today.
Can I ask, like, was there a lot of, because I feel like there's a lot of red tape in, especially in the medical field, like HIPAA compliance, and I'm sure there's like NDAs where it's just like, in your transition, like you said, you picked up clients. Were those clients people that you were servicing at those previous clinics? Or like, did they be like, damn, Nadia's leaving me, like, what am I supposed to do? And you'd be like, I can't tell you what to do, but like, there is a website where this person happens to be my same name. What was the deal there?
No, it was actually very different because the individuals on the job that I had was elderly individuals.
Okay.
And when I left, it was like I was also working at a nursing home, so it was an elder individual population. When I started my business, it was just people who Googled dietitian near me, nutritionist near me,
Okay.
maybe like friends and family that knew I was starting to go into this crazy adventure. And it's like, hey, Naria, can I work with you? I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah. Um, was there anything you took with you from your previous experiences that kind of gave you a leg up in like what to do or what not to do when you started your private practice?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It was a lot of, I knew what didn't work when it came to following what I learned in school. So in school, we learned a lot of that might plate, what the government's teaching. The government wants you to do this, do the might plate, and so forth.
Hmm.
And I learned that that just wasn't really working for most people, especially when we think about chronic disease or weight management goals, really anything.
Hmm.
Like having that much starch that's recommended in the my plate or forcing people to try to have dairy every day,
Yeah.
that's just not the world we have to live in. So
Hmm.
I learned when I moved to my private practice that I really need to focus on something that's really solving people's issues, reducing their risk for diabetes, fatty liver, kidney disease, obesity, and so forth.
Yeah.
So I knew already that I'm not going to be following the my plate.
Hmm.
I need to do like a healthy version of my plate, but not my plate because that wasn't it.
Okay. So when you say my plate, like, are we talking about the food pyramid? Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's so funny. So the food pyramid, I think that's what was shown when I was younger. I don't remember what years. And then my pyramid changed into a different form. So then it just went to a my plate. So the my pyramid was the older version of the my plate.
Okay.
And on the my plate, it just has like how much starch, how much protein, veggies, and the cup of dairy on the
Yeah.
side.
Question, like, have you done, like, because I feel like I've seen videos as of late, again, like as we progress forward, like all this knowledge is being accessible to everyone, and it finds that we're learning that a lot of these studies that were done were literally done for like white males, you get me, or just like a specific, person. And now we're seeing that like no one person is the same, you get me, not even the white males are the same, you get me. So like I don't forget like where I was like leading with this, but like, is that what you're like, what you found from, like, have you done the research as to like where these things come from and like why they were the way they were, and like has that led into you get me, has that taught you how to do things differently from seeing how like those studies were done in the past?
Did I do research on the My Plate? No,
Okay.
I have not actually done research into how they came up with these random numbers, but
Okay.
I'm sure they have their, research, and that's nice.
Yeah.
But I saw what happened in real life when you applied that.
Hmm.
And that's really what made my decision into I'm not going to be recommending 6 to 8 starches a day. That's like, why? What people aren't getting enough protein, they're not getting enough fiber. We need to focus on telling people to do that, not to load themselves on like all this rice a day or tortillas or bread or whatever the heck their
Hmm.
my plate is showing.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing a video of like, I think I don't forget what show it was on. It was one of those doctors that had their own show where he was like going back and forth with this guy, and like this old man was saying like, yeah, there's as much fruits in like a bag of grapes than there is in a chocolate bar. And the guy was like, but you can't say that, because when you say that out loud to like create a clip, now there are some parents out there who look at the bag of grapes and see their kid being like, hey, can I have that chocolate bar? And they think that the chocolate bar is okay now because of what you just said. But like, you fail to, realize that like those grapes, while they're still filled with sugar, they're natural sugars. You get me? They're not like
Right.
processed sugars. Like, and then he asked the guy who was like, would you give your kids like, some chocolate? And he was like, no, milk chocolate, that's poison. And I was just like, you're proving my point. um but yeah, it's crazy. I wanna get into that, but first I don't want to brush over your journey of like starting being an entrepreneur. Wow, like when you first started to move over, did you have kids at that time? Were you married at that time when you made that transition?
Oh my, I was,
What was that
yeah, the
like?
actual
Like that must have
rough.
been crazy. How old were your kids at the time, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, it's interesting. From the time I became pregnant, my kids haven't known a mom that wasn't going to school or didn't own a business.
Okay.
Like, I think I became more serious with life when I found out I was pregnant. Before I was pregnant, I was just goofing and lying.
Okay.
Then I realized, wait, I'm gonna have a little human being that I have to take care of, so I need to get to business. So when I was going to school, they were babies. I mean, I was pregnant, taking biochemistry, taking all these random classes, and then they were born, and I was still going to school. So I was going to school for literally all their babyhood.
They were in there learning
Um,
too. Like, I got notes.
yeah, exactly. And I have them taking pictures of me all the time on my laptop. They're just like, this journey started when the second I found out I was pregnant with my first child,
Okay.
and he's going to be turning 16 this
Oh,
year.
wow. Wow, that's crazy. You
Yeah,
look amazing. That is
thank
insane.
you.
When people say that, you say,
Yeah,
that's crazy. Um,
yeah. They've been it's a 16-year process. Like, even going to school, finishing that, starting the business. I started the business about 4 years ago. So they were what, like 12 and 10
okay.
years old, but they've never had a mom that wasn't going to school or wasn't in business. It was always been doing something.
Yeah. And at that age, I guess like they can kind of, whether it be like them taking care of each other or like someone else is just watching over them, but like it's not like very hands on where like, no, you need to be here. Takes 5 meals a day. You get me? Like there's no like real instruction set for taking care of a 10 or 12-year old at that point.
No,
Okay.
no. During the first year, like when I was going to school, not working, just, trying to survive, it was a lot of support from my mom and my husband.
Okay.
Like, they literally had to figure out what we're going to do with the kids while I was in school. If I didn't have a car, who's going to drop me off and pick me up? All that fun stuff you have to deal with when you're going to school and you have no money.
Yeah.
It was all the support from these individuals, my kids just kind of bearing through it. And yeah, it was hard. It was definitely not it was definitely not an easy process. I never expected it to be easy.
Hmm.
So I think mentally I was ready for it.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was definitely a challenge.
Was there ever any sort of like, I don't know, I don't want to say resentment, but at any point did you ever have moments where you're like, damn, I'm not spending time with my kids? Like, how did you process that? How did you go through that?
Oh yeah, like, I think it's huge, especially when you have like other moms, and yes, I don't think we all want to judge. Sometimes I think sometimes we do it by accident.
Hmm.
But hearing other moms, oh, I'm not working or I'm not doing this, to see my kids grow up and see my kids grow up. I'm like, yeah, I totally get it. And it is a little bit of guiltiness because you are in school all day and then you come home and then you're studying and your kids are growing up, your kids are growing up. So yeah, there's definitely that. And then one day I remember my auntie, she's a doctor, and she was like, Naria, while your kids are growing up, if you're on the laptop, like, you need to put your laptop down for a little bit and spend time with them. Like, don't be at a point that you're just not spending time with them. So with that, I try to have some balance as much as possible to where, yes, I am focused. I feel like I'm working 1,000 hours a day, but I have some time with the kids. Like I
Mhm,
need to be with them, be a mom, and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's not easy. And sometimes that guilt can come.
mhm.
And then you have to kind of think like, are you doing what's right for your kids? Because at the end of the day, this is all for them. It's not for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get you. They'll you get me, get the what is it, the fruits of the labor that you're putting in. You get me, and like when you have your business, when you scale up to that point and you have so much free time that like, you'll hopefully be able to help them raise their kids or like you give me or help them you
Exactly.
get me get to those next points in life when you chase their dreams. And that's awesome. I think like there's no better way to set a precedent than like showing them the journey of like where you're going. You get me? Like for me, I
Yes.
grew up with
Yes.
my mom, seeing my mom go to work all the time, working multiple jobs and just like, without a college degree and like getting to the point of making six figures without a college degree. I mean,
Oh my
there was a
God.
lot to it that like I didn't like because like when I came time to do work, like things are different, like going into the startup world, she was like, you need to wear a three-piece suit to these interviews. You need to like, show up for the man. And then like I did that in the hottest summer day and literally the guy interviewing me was wearing a t-shirt and shorts and flip-flops and I was like, oh my god, I'm out here melting and this guy is chilling. um it's crazy how times have changed. When it comes to transitioning into your business, like how hard or how easy or hard was it? Like, because like again, like I was talking about this in a previous podcast where like a lot of people want to go into business for themselves because they don't want a boss. They don't want someone telling them what to do or I mean how to do something, but then they fail to realize that it's not that you don't have a boss, it's that you are now your own boss. And that hat that you didn't want to wear now changes into so many hats that you got to mix and match and put on. What was the transition for you in that regard? Like, because you were probably like really good at what you did, which is what inspired you to like leave those practices, and then you get out in the real world and you're like, oh man, I thought I'd just be able to do what I want to do all the time, but now it's like I got I got to create a logo, I got to create a website, I got to you get me. So like, how was that for you? How did you balance that?
It was one of the most confusing things on planet Earth because like I was thinking I went to school to be a dietitian. That's all I want to do. But the reality is when you open your business, you are everything. You're every position. You're doing 30 jobs at once. And other people that don't have businesses and they hear you doing a business, they don't understand that. They think just like, oh, you're doing a position. No, I wish I'm not. But what really helped me was hiring my first business coach.
Mhm,
He's honestly brought so much clarity. He simplified the process for me. And after I hired him, I I was able to build a foundation for it. Like we need to focus on one step at a time
mhm,
versus everything at once
mhm,
and being structured and really growing from there. But I think he's the one that really planted a lot of seeds in my head because before I was working with him, I had no idea. I don't
mhm,
know. I didn't know the structure. I didn't know the charges. I didn't know how my program would actually look. How long is it? How would I get people? What would my logo look like? Do I need a logo? Do I need a website? Do I need a CPA? All these questions. I'm like, I don't know.
mhm.
And he helped a lot.
That's all. How did you discover your coach? Was your coach like a specific coach within your realm and industry, or you get me like, and then like yeah, we'll answer that first. But I also want to get into like because we talk about like the idea of investing in yourselves, and sometimes it's hard for people to like you know get past that fear and like make that you get me that investment of just like, oof, I'm not making any money. This person's asking for like upwards of, we're talking about four figures here for coaching. And it's like they're big investments. And like and I also know that a lot of coaches, it's like their coaching is only as good as you're willing to be taught. You're willing to learn and actually bend and mold and do the things that they're asking. So what was that like for you?
Um, Hiring him was how was the transition? He was very honest. So how did I find him? I
Yeah.
was actually following him for about 2 years.
Okay.
And I was following him on Facebook and Instagram, and he was specifically focused on dietitians opening their own business.
Okay.
So I thought, I'm a dietitian. I want to open my business. I'm just going to follow you like a stalker for a little bit. And then when I'm ready for it, then I'll reach out to you. And that's exactly what I did. I basically stalked him for a year or two, just watched his, Facebook or Instagram. I don't remember. I think it was Instagram. And one day I reached out. I reached out to him, and that's kind of how that process started. And he was very straightforward with the whole process. Like, this is how the program looks. And at the end of the day, you get the results you work for. And it is 100% true with any coach you have. I know sometimes we're like, oh, we hired this coach and I thought this and this and that. Every coach that I've hired has taught me something, and that has been through implementation on my part.
Mhm.
So very honest, very open. He worked out great. After him, I started working with different coaches, and from every coach, even if it was like, oh my gosh, I thought I was going to get more, I can tell you from everyone, I've been able to grab a lot of information to create the program that I have today.
Okay. Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
So, would you say like it's like if you're starting out in business, like is it a necessity to have a coach? Like, or like what's your idea behind that? Like, are you yeah.
I don't think it's necessary, but it will take you from like $500 a month to 20, 30, 40,000 a month.
Mm.
So I guess the question is, what work are you willing to do on your own? Meaning, are you willing to like absorb thousands of hours of videos? Because all of us coaches give our information for free. If you were to just like, for example, for me, if you were to look at my YouTube episodes, everything I teach my one-on-one patients and clients, it's on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So if someone was like, I don't want to invest right now, but I'll watch your videos, you'll get everything that I teach.
Hmm.
So the question is, are you willing to sit down and take action on your own and watch all those videos? Or is it easier for you to have a coach to walk you through every step? What's going to get you to where you want faster? So you don't necessarily need a coach, but I will tell you that if I wouldn't have had a coach, I wouldn't be in the position I am right now. It probably would have taken me about maybe a few more years.
Yeah. So it's more like know yourself, know how you learn best. Like if you could sit down and like comb the internet and absorb what you need to absorb, cool. But if you find yourself scatterbrained in terms of like what decisions to make when and how to make them, then you're probably inclined to like go make that investment, find someone, Can I ask you, when it comes to finding a coach, is was it a situation where like you saw someone that was in the position that you wanted to be, or like what about him attracted you to following him for those 2 years? You get me? Was it like, because a
Um,
lot of people often say like, yeah, find someone who's living the life that you want to live and or have done the things that you've done. But when I hear that, is like, was your coach a dietitian himself, or was he someone that only helped people in the medical field, or like was he just a business coach? You get me?
yeah, that's a good question. For this particular individual, my first coach, he was a dietitian that opened his business.
That's sick. That's dope.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
okay. That means that that means that the advice lands differently. Like it hits differently. You guys are using the same lingo. Probably came from the same place. Yeah, you were dealing with that at your place too. Like my place. Like yeah, okay, that hits
It,
differently.
it really does. So within that, just that itself, but also all the testimonials he was putting up there on his Instagram, all these dietitians saying, hey, I went from private practice where no one appreciates you, no one's reading your notes, you're not making changes, and now I have my own private practice and I love what I do. I thought, oh, that's pretty cool, because I get it. You're at the clinic and literally no one cares about what you're doing.
Hmm.
No one's reading your notes. You're not actually impacting people. You're just there doing, like, there's no satisfaction, at least for me. Maybe other people love it and that's totally cool,
Yeah.
but for me, no. I need to change people's lives, and I was not doing that before. So I would hear these dietitians and I thought, okay, let me just go for it, because obviously it worked for him and it's working for all these dietitians he has, and that was my first coach.
Dope stuff. That's awesome. Um, so yeah, I thank you so much for like just sharing that whole journey with me. I want to get into like some meaty stuff here. I want to give you an opportunity to showcase your, your specialty, your skills. Um, why is gut health so important? Because like I feel like again, like as we get into this age, a lot of people are talking. There's a lot of pseudosciences going around. There's people that breath work is everything, and like there's so much coming from all angles. I think the other day I was watching this clip, and like it was this girl like trying to eat healthy, and like I think she started out with like oatmeal, and then like she played like a clip of like, if you're eating oatmeal, then oatmeal is probably one of the worst things, and like why it was another thing. And then she was like, all right, then it like switched to her like trying to eat eggs, and it was like, the worst thing for you is like eggs in the morning. She was like, well damn. Then she like tried fruit, and it was like, stay away from fruit, all these sugars are like, eh, there's a lot going on,
Wow.
and there's a lot being sent at us from all of these, influencers, from people in like, from bodybuilders to people that, I mean, like, why is gut health so important? And like, how do you cut through that noise to figure out
Oh
what's
my
right for
gosh,
you?
yeah. It's huge. I think why is gut health so important? Because everything starts in the gut. The more research that we're seeing, okay, it's tied to the gut. It's tied to the gut. Even when I go to conferences and someone's not a gut specialist, they say, but it's tied to the gut. They had gut issues. This was going to the gut. And I thought, okay, cool. So if everything starts in the gut, why not start there to give real answers? And the thing is, like you said, there's a lot of education out there from random people. Some of them are providers, some of them aren't providers, some
Mhm,
of them are just people who like to eat healthy or had an amazing weight loss journey and now they want to teach people.
mhm,
So there's all types of individuals teaching. But the reality is like giving people fear of food is just not going to be it,
mhm,
right? So the way that I always approach it with people is where are you at now? What do we need to do? What's a non-negotiable? What can we play around with? And then we're going to go on from there. But you do have to be very careful, especially with the social media that's out there.
mhm. No, it's crazy. And then can I ask, like, when you say tied to the gut, like, because again, like, we're talking about more than just like physical like symptoms of like this hurts, that hurts, but like even things like being cloudy and like, like for like I want to ask, like, what about things like, ADHD, or just like, I mean, like all these other things and ailments that people suffer from? Would you say that, what I mean, like a lot of this can be solved with gut health things? Because like I feel like there's a lot of people looking for band-aids of things of sorts. You get me?
Yeah.
Where like, oh, like you find yourself lost in life, like go try, ayahuasca or something like that. You get me? Like, and I feel like everyone's looking for, you get me, an easy switch. You get me? Like when you say everything's tied to the gut, I want to know, like, what do you mean by that? Like, is it just those physical ailments, or like have you seen in your practice like there's a lot of things tied to the gut?
Yeah, yeah. So that's a great question. When you think of like everything's tied to the gut, we have to go back to like the micro level.
Mhm,
And in our digestive system, there's like these little microbes, the bacteria,
mhm,
however you want to call them. And some of them can produce inflammation, and then some of them can reduce inflammation. Unfortunately, for most Americans, they're not consuming enough fiber to feed the good microbes. Most Americans are not even at 10 grams. I would say about maybe 8 grams a day of fiber when they should be getting over 30 grams of fiber. So, if we go back to the micro level of the microbes being responsible for some of them inflammation, anti-inflammation, let's say the microbes are supposed to reduce the inflammation of the body.
mhm,
If we're not feeding them fiber, they're not going to be able to do their job. And if we're not feeding them fiber, they're going to start to eat us literally inside of our gut. We have a gut lining. They start to munch on that, and eventually little holes can peek through. And what that means
That's
is in
terrifying.
time there's toxins, foods that can leach through those little holes and go into the bloodstream, and your body knows it's not supposed to be there. So inflammation, and that can lead to oh my gosh, like brain fog, hormonal problems. It could lead to weight management issues, blood sugar regulations, because all those things are regulated in your gut. Those little microbes, they have jobs. It's not just about taking a probiotic and saying, oh, I went to Costco and took a probiotic. Sometimes it works for people, and that's great. They've been touched by the stars. But for the individuals I work with, that is just not that simple. The reason we want to take probiotics to have those good microbes is to reduce the inflammation.
Mhm,
But if we are taking those microbes, those probiotics, but we're not feeding them, they're not going to want to stay in our digestive system. They're actually going to come out. They're going to basically go in our digestive system. And let's say we have a condition like leaky gut, which a lot of people have. Those little microbes are going to be like, yeah, this isn't it. I'm good. And then they're going to come on out.
Hmm.
So it's a multifactorial approach when we think about our gut, but everything is tied there because those little microbes, those little bacteria, they have jobs, they
Hmm.
have functions, and some of them are to produce for short chain fatty acids. Some of them are to produce GABA. And if they're not there, then that's where we can increase our risk of depression, anxiety. I mean, it just starts all there. And even what's interesting, have I seen that with people? Well, when I first started doing functional testing, I remember having a few individuals that they were like, okay, now I have some digestive issues, but I'm also seeing some changes with some new food allergies. My hormones are a little bit off. And I'm always very clear that I specialize in the gut. But if it's true that everything starts in the gut, then those issues should start to improve.
Hmm.
And I saw that. I saw that with a lot of my first individuals that we all we did was just focus on your digestive system after doing the functional testing. Then all those other random things that a lot of doctors attributed to age just went away.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Can I ask, like, are you like, what's your position on people treating symptoms with medication?
There is always there's a time and place for medication.
Hmm.
For sure. I am not against Western medicine at all. I honestly think that integrative medicine is the best approach for most people, where you combine Western medicine and functional medicine together
Okay.
because we need to work together. Many times it's just not once, but I think there's a time and place. And we don't want to just say, no, I'm not going to do the medicine because whatever reason. If that's going to prevent cancer or save your life, let's do it and figure out how we can really restore your gut if you took an antibiotic, for example, so that way we can go back to a healthy place.
Yeah. Question, like, so that in place, but what's because like there's also like I feel like there are other people who are like, yeah, swallow this tapeworm, or like give me like other like or beyond Western medicine, where people try to like, what is your take on those? Are any of those like, do they make sense, or are people just out here like just
Oh my gosh.
trying stuff? What's the
I
wildest thing
think
you've heard? Like,
what's the wildest thing? Oh my gosh. I don't know. It's probably close to one of those tapeworm things. Can I take one to lose weight? I
yeah.
think that would be one I've heard a few times.
Hmm.
But I think that when it comes to these issues or these trendy things, we can't just listen to random people. Going back to there's everyone with an opinion. Like, is there evidence? Is there scientific evidence supporting this? Are you doing something that could ruin your body? Like, who are you taking advice from?
Hmm.
It should be from a provider that knows that this is going to support you, not from just a random holistic person that's having you take random supplements that maybe just enjoy these herbs and started this process. You have to be very careful. And again, I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm not saying there's not an amazing holistic person. No, because I've met them and some of them are absolutely amazing. But what I am saying is be careful what you're trying and from and who's telling you. Whose advice are you taking?
Yeah. Can I ask, what is your take on like the placebo effect and like the idea? Like, some people believe that like the body can heal itself if you just are thinking the right thing. You know, I mean, there's people that think like, oh, you can just manifest it to happen, and like there are certain stories where like people, you know, I mean, magically heal themselves by like, I don't know, like for instance, like people talk about fasting all the time. That when you fast,
Mhm.
you put yourself in that state that we were in when we were like Neanderthals, and like we weren't eating meals every day, and then your body just happens to like kick in and they're like, hey, I got you. None of these things belong here. Like, what's your take on that?
On the
Yeah.
fasting. So it's interesting because I actually started to recommend fasting without realizing I was recommending fasting. One of my patients called me out. He's like, Naria, you said no fasting and then you're recommending fasting. But it's because I recommend it very different from what most people do.
Yeah.
So when it comes to fasting, there's so many benefits to it. I mean, huge, especially when we think about the digestive system. But most people tend to do it in a way that I don't personally agree with, but I'm always coming with the mind of a digestive health specialist.
Okay.
So I like to recommend basically to eat dinner a little bit earlier and have your fasting window from dinner to breakfast time
Yeah.
versus skipping breakfast and eating like, I don't know, 1 p.m.
It's
or
called
whatever people
it's
do.
called break fast,
But
right?
yes, exactly. Yes, yes. But essentially, fasting is very beneficial, but you don't want to just be snacking throughout the day because you're also not letting your digestive system relax. You need to let the microbes ferment. You need to let your insulin just kind of chill. And that's really, really important. But yeah, fasting, there's a lot of benefits, but you have to do it the right way. You have to do it the right way that's sustainable. You're getting your protein, you're getting your fiber in.
Mhm.
You're getting all those calories you actually need based on your lifestyle. That is the way that you do it to see those long-term changes, not just cutting out foods or having one large meal a day. That's something I've seen has not worked for people, period.
I got you. I got you. Well, the beginning half of that question, what's your take on like the placebo effect on like people
Yes.
believing in things and like their body kind of altering to like, there've been studies where like, they give like a certain set of patients like sugar pills and then they give the other set of patients the actual medication and like the people who like took the sugar pills happen to have better results than the people who took the medication. Like, what's your thought on that?
I think our thoughts can become real. And if, for example, if I have someone who wants to work with me, but they're very negative and they say, I don't think I can heal, this is impossible, that is they've already mentioned their future. They are making their future as they speak.
Yeah.
So when it comes to our thought process and what we believe, what we believe can become real in various ways, including healing. Because if you tricked your mind that you can't heal or you won't get better, you're not going to get better.
Yeah. Wow.
You're not. So
Is that like an asset? Like, is
it's
that like a red flag for you when it comes to like even like looking at a patient? And like, how do you communicate with them? Where it's just like, are there ever people where like you just turn them away? Where it's just like, look, I don't think you're ready, or like, how do you go through that conversation? Because that could be rough for some people. You get me?
it can be very rough. And I always like to take a step back and
Hmm.
ask why. Why are you thinking this? Because the reality is, for about 90% of people that sign on with me, they are at a point that they feel that maybe nothing will work
Hmm.
because they've seen at least two GI doctors. They've done colonoscopies, they've done endoscopies, they've done liver scans, they've done it all. They've taken multiple rounds of antibiotics if they've had flare ups, and they still have their pain. So then one day they're on social media and they just happen to come across me, and then we get on a phone call and they're like, Naria, I just don't think it's going to work because this. So if that is the case, I like to assess and see where we at. Are you in this negative mind frame because of your history? And for most people, honestly, it is. And I like to explain to them like why that necessarily didn't solve the issues. It's still important to go to your GI doctor. You must go to your GI doctor actually
Hmm.
before we really sign on.
Hmm.
And as long as they understand, like, oh, this is why maybe I haven't found my answers, great. But if an individual is just like, this isn't going to work, maybe they're not willing to be fully compliant or take supplements or change their diet, then that's where I say maybe you're not ready. If you're not ready, for example, let's say someone eats only one meal a day and they want to heal their digestive system. In my experience, it hasn't worked yet.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I like to recommend is we need to have a set schedule of meals that are nice and balanced. And if someone's not willing to do that, then that's one of my little marks of, am I really going to be able to help you heal? Because in my experience, I haven't been able to do it if someone's just eating one meal a day.
Yeah. I got you. Are there any like, do you work with others where like, because I feel like there's almost like some people that like want to start these journeys, but like I feel like yes, it all starts with gut health, but also like your mental state has to be, I mean, ready to change and ready to do it. And it's like, have you ever like recommended people where it's just like, look, like, and it's hard because like some people would take this very disrespectfully, whereas it's like I think what you need first is like therapy or like something of that sorts before we get to this, this next level of actually taking action. Have you ever, pushed someone in that direction? Because like it's sometimes where like people will like come to you and they almost like want you to be their therapist and like tell them why they're not able doing things. You're like, I'm here for the action. I'm not I'm not here to like dig into the why.
Yeah, no, if mental health is very much tied to the digestive system. So if someone's going through it all, maybe they went through a divorce or death, or just their stress is through the roof, they're experiencing depression, they have to go talk to someone to help them deal with that.
Get you.
because we cannot heal the digestive system if all that is very high.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. So, yes, I have had a lot of circumstances that someone comes to me with their case and I walk them through the steps. Make an appointment here, start with a specialist, and then after this amount of time, then reach back out and then we can start. But we can't really try to fully heal the gut when you're not addressing your stress or your anxiety levels or if you have depression.
Hmm.
You have to take it all and remember that the mind and the gut are so tied together that you really have to focus on both of them. And sometimes we need a first step, and that first step may be, if you just got divorced, let's try to settle that down mentally before we go to the next step.
Got you. I got you. So let's talk about, you get me, your business. I want to give you the opportunity to, you get me, basically tell the my viewers out there, like, what is it like to work with you? And while you're talking, I am just going to plug you right now, where if you guys want to learn about Nadia and everything she does, go to her website, and also she'll have a link in her YouTube to her YouTube from there, where you can get like the free advice. If you find you're that type of person that can sit there and watch these videos and absorb them, like, go through those. I can even, I mean, shoot, like, this is what our website looks like right now. Obviously, we have like the Let's Chat. You have a gut restoration guide. Look at you, because you hitting all points on business, getting all those warm leads. Hold on, there we go. But yeah, I just kind of want you to give the people a synopsis of, like, what is it like to work with you? How do they get in contact, and what do the steps look like?
Yeah, usually people find me through social media
Okay.
because it's a virtual practice. And the way that it's kind of like outlined is I first do a discovery call with everyone because I need to make sure that I can help you.
Hmm.
And if not, that's totally cool. Like I know other providers are amazing. And if it's outside of my specialty or my scope of practice, then I will refer out.
Hmm.
But if all goes well in the discovery call and you have, let's say you have IBS, so if you have frequent flare ups, so if you have diverticulosis or anything that I know I've done a billion times or feels like a billion, then I'm like, okay, cool, I can help you. And after all the sign on, I send functional stool testing out.
Hmm.
So I really like to avoid the guesswork. And let's send out the stool test, the functional stool test, which is very different from the doctor's test. It's very needed. So still go to the GI doctor for this. I
Hmm.
can't say that enough. It's a must. But we send out the functional stool test. And when we get the results of the functional stool test, that's where I actually send it to a lab, and the lab creates a personalized probiotic based on the person's results, and I create their protocol.
Oh wow.
Their protocol is going to have their diets, other supplements to help with the gut healing if it's something we have to work on. Again, if someone has new food sensitivities, new food allergies, or they're dealing with brain fog or eczema, those are things we can really look at this test. This test gives us a lot of clues, and based on those clues, I get to make the protocol.
Hmm.
Now, I work for 6 months with my one-on-one clients and my group coaching clients. No matter what program, it's a 6-month program that I literally walk you through what to do to heal your gut
Hmm.
so that we can start to add foods back. You can start to go out without having to worry about where the bathroom is. You
Hmm.
can go on airplanes without having to, again, wait for that little light to turn and go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
That's really how the process works.
Yeah. Can I ask, that the 6 months start immediately, or does it start after you get the test results? Like, what's the process there?
Immediately,
Okay.
we get into action then because depending on their symptoms, I can usually tell where we need to kind of start with in regards to diet and supplements.
Okay.
And I really need people to start to feel better within the second to third week.
Hmm.
So my goal is always that's why I have the discovery call. What can I do right now to help you feel better 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now?
Yeah.
And so we start immediately.
Okay. Heck yeah. Do you only service people in the SoCal area? Or are you open to servicing people from, you get me, out of state? Like, what's the deal there? Like, are you able as a dietitian to, like, give someone, you get me, those tests, or like the scripts to get those tests elsewhere, or is it just like you can
Mhm.
only do it in California?
I mainly work with people in California, but I also work with a lot of states in the United States.
Okay.
And if it's somewhere that I need licensure, usually it just means I need to do a little bit more paperwork. But there's a lot of states that don't require licensure to where I can practice there. I get a few people that I do coaching in Canada,
Hmm.
but for the most part, it's in California. But if you're not in California, in the United States, it's like a 90% chance we'll be able to figure something out.
I got you. I got you. Side topic: how big is your team? Is it still just you solo, or is it something where like they're talking to someone else leading up to getting to the point of talking to you?
Now the team is five. It's grown over the
Okay.
last maybe year. Before it was me, which was like the most stressful thing I think you could do for yourself, but
Hmm.
it's part of the process.
Yeah.
But now it's five. So I have a lot of support from my team. We work together very, very closely
Okay.
to where we're making sure that we're really delivering those results. We're really communicating with people at a good time. And yeah.
Is your team comprised of like other dietitians, or are you the sole dietitian being supported by others who are like schedule setting and like doing all the other things?
I'm the only dietitian right now,
Okay.
and I have other people supporting me. So my goal is to try to have everyone in their zone of genius.
Heck yeah.
So what are you good at? Do that, and then we'll move forward. And that has been a big game changer. For the most part, now I'm starting to focus more on like creating content, sending it to them, doing my counseling, which is what I love, following up with my patients and my clients,
Mhm.
making them feel better. I'm veering more towards that. So yes, it's a lot of them supporting me.
Heck yeah. And I've seen as of late you've also been pushing school, right?
Yeah.
So what is the thought process behind that? Like why, like what would you recommend to, like what's the difference between be like someone coming in the door and like you would recommend them, like I'm assuming the levels are like YouTube, school, or then you get me just go to my website and let's start working together. What's the levels there? What's the thought process someone should have into coming into that?
School is great. I actually just started school recently because I wanted to build a very small community of people who were ready to look for answers,
Okay.
that we're not getting spammed by other people. It was just me educating them, and they're not getting fake education from other individuals. There's so many free resources I have here. So this group is really for individuals that maybe have just came across
Yeah.
who I am and are interested in, wait, can I actually heal my gut?
Yeah.
And these are resources that I made
Okay.
throughout the years, and I'm sharing with them. These are things I've worked for my clients before. And my whole thing is, let's make a small community that we can really help people heal. And again, if they're willing to do the work and do everything themselves, they can really heal pretty solid.
Yeah.
But maybe they need a little bit more support where they can reach out.
Yeah.
And it's a very easy way to reach me through school.
Okay. Awesome. And then when it comes to like people going to your website and working through that way, like what's the mindset behind that? It's like you're a working individual, like this is a real problem for you, like, and you can afford to make the investment in yourself. Is that the thought behind that?
Yeah, the thought with my website is you're ready to go. You've probably already followed me for a little bit. You're dealing with digestive issues. You've been through it all with the GI doctor. You've been through it all and you're still having pain. Go to my website, book the free discovery call, and let's get started as soon as we find out if we're a good match for each other.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. So I want to give the floor to you before we end this call. Like, what is, you get me, like on top of mind for you? Like, what are you like, what are you pushing right now? And like, I definitely would want to know, like, of your space, like, what is like one of the top things that people are dealing with that's new that you've seen recently that is just like, this is the reason why you should reach out to me.
Yes, yes. Really getting to that root problem.
Okay.
Because my goal for everyone is we want to avoid those band-aid approaches and get to what's causing your problem. And my whole goal is just that. Let's get to your root problem. Let's actually heal. Let's avoid that band-aid game and get you feeling better as soon as humanly possible.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well,
Yes.
thank you so much for joining me, Nadia. Is there anything you think I should have asked you that I didn't ask you?
I think you did really good at asking everything. And I think the main thing here is for most people dealing with digestive issues, you can heal because the human body is literally designed in a way that it wants to heal, wants to support you. But unfortunately, when we're going through so much and we're going through flare ups, our body's way to communicate that something's wrong is through symptoms. And what we take it as is something is wrong with my body, but
Hmm.
nothing is wrong with the body. It's just your body trying to tell you, hey, I need some help.
Yeah.
And as long as we figure out what help that is and we do it, those symptoms start to reduce because your body doesn't have to keep warning you that something's wrong.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you for joining me. I really hope that my viewers have found me some tidbits of information that either lead them to your door, or you get me just lead them into your space in general, and that they can find some help. But yeah, I'm gonna trigger your and my lower third, but I think I'm gonna do yours first and move it over to you, and then I'll do mine. Um, but yeah, you can follow her at her handle right down below there. Also, I will trigger your call to actions one more time. Pause this, scan this, go to her website, or you can go to her school. Again, pause this, go to that. And then lastly, I will do my last sign off, which is if any of you out there are interested in starting a show like this for yourself, built around your business goals, go to bookalivestudio.com. And yeah, we specialize in producing shows around products and services. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me there, shoot me a DM. But again, Nadia, thank you for joining me and having this conversation. I'm going to trigger the outro really quickly, and then we can just talk a little bit. All right.
Okay.
Awesome.